Good morning, everyone. Guys, as we inch closer to total world annihilation and nuclear Armageddon, we've got to consider that Iran and Israel are still waiting for something to happen. By Iran and Israel, I mean Iran is waiting for Israel to strike. Israel have said they're going to strike, so they will, and I'm going to tell you guys what I think is going to happen. So first of all, guys, before we get into it, don't forget to click the buttons down below, the like button, the share button, the subscribe button. There's also a bell down there or something, whatever you guys do to help my channel grow. So when we're considering the strike options for Israel, to strike into Iran, you've got to look at what is what outcome do you want to have from that? Well, people are talking about the Israelis striking the nuclear capacity in Iran. Guys, honestly, I don't see that happening. I really don't. I think that the Iraq invasion showed the Iranians that, they can't hide anything, they can't use air defense against, such advanced aircraft as the F-35. Also, if you remember, I think it was like a couple of months ago, the Iranians took out all the air defenses in and around one of these nuclear facilities. So this was just like them saying, listen, guys, we can take you guys out whenever we want. So if you were the Iranians, would you have any of your valuable materials, your valuable nuclear research centers above ground? No, of course not. You're going to put these deep underground. Now, it's okay saying, the Israelis know where these deep underground bases are. Yes, they may know where the entrances are. But guess what, sweet cheeks? Once you dig in diggers, you can move around underneath that, in and around that entry point for as long as you want. You can make tunnels 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever kilometers long. It doesn't really matter. And all the satellites in the world, they can't see them. So that's what I would say the Iranians have done with their nuclear capacity. So a strike on Iran's nuclear capacity, I just don't see it happening, guys. I really don't see it happening. What I think would happen, what I think the more likely target is, and guys, this is against what all the mainstream media are saying. All the mainstream media, well, obviously nobody knows what the Iranians are going to strike. Sorry, the Israelis are going to strike. But most of the mainstream media articles and the pundits and these colonels, these analytic people, they're all saying that they're not going to strike Iran's oil producing capacity. Guys, I think they are going to strike Iranian oil producing capacity. I'll tell you where I think they're going to strike as well. So let me share this screen with you real quick. So this is just basic. In fact, where is it? Yeah, there it is. So obviously you've got the Persian Gulf here. You've got Kuwait, Iraq. What you got? United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Qatar, Bahrain, and then obviously Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. Obviously, all these really rich oil-producing countries are in and around that area. Here you've got the Strait of Hormuz. Now, guys, I think very soon this could be closed, and I'll tell you why. I think the Israelis are going to destroy this island here. It's called the Karg Island or Karg Island. So this little island here, if we zoom in on it, look at that beauty. Look at that beauty here. Look at all the oil production, refining systems we've got there. That is a beautiful target if you're an Israeli. Guys, so 90% of the Iranian oil that gets processed gets processed on this island. So if you took out this island, you would cut the purse strings overnight from the the Iranian purse strings, because that would literally cripple their oil producing capacity. Now, if that happens, which I think that's the most likely option at this point, if that happens, the Iranians have there's no problem with the Iranians then closing the Persian Gulf here. Now, what would happen on a global spectrum? The country that this is going to hurt the most, if the Israelis take out that oil field, is China, because China relies on, if you look at this on a global You know, a lot of this oil from the Persian Gulf comes out and it goes into China this way. So a lot of this oil producing capacity, and it's not just from Iran. You would cripple Kuwait, Iraq, all these regions. You would cripple them. Now there was a pipeline built by the Saudi Arabians, and I think it runs like, I don't know. I think it runs like here somewhere. It basically runs east-west. This was built in the 80s when there was fears of the Iraq-Iran wars closing the Strait of Hormuz. So the Saudi Arabians would still be able to get their oil out through this pipeline. Now, what had happened? You would see an absolute spike in the oil price. You know, right now, I don't know how the oil price has kept so low. I really don't, with all this instability around this region. But guys, I think that's going to be the target, Karg Island. I just don't. I see that as the main target. I also see them striking. You know, I think if there are any military targets on this south coast as well, I think they'll get taken out. Remember, anything on this south coast here, this would be the prelude for an amphibious assault. And if you've been following my channel, you understand what I say about, the United States are going to have a war with Iran. It seems inevitable at this point. The United States have already started striking Iranian targets by, the Houthis in Yemen. The Israelis, people say they're the United States 51st state. Look at the rhetoric. Look at the interpersonal connections. Look at the interpersonal relationships between leaders. Look at Netanyahu when he went to meet Donald Trump. They was giving the bro handshake. Netanyahu went to Donald Trump's house I think it's his house in Mar-a-Lago, and you've got to understand that it doesn't matter what policies and what negotiation talks and what summits people go to. It's all fake. Look at the interpersonal relationships between people. Look at how they look at each other when they meet each other, and that's how you can tell what's going to happen. So the United States, under no circumstances, are going to abandon Israel. The United States are in this, and this is why we're seeing this divergence. Guys, it's happening in real time. We are literally looking at the footsteps now to a third world war. So I think once the Israel, and again, guys, I'm going against what most mainstream media articles are saying. I think the Israelis are going to strike Karg Island. It just makes sense for them to do that. And especially if you're looking at a wider conflict going to happen, you would want to do this. The United States, it's not really going to affect the oil price going up. Is not really going to affect the United States because the United States are a net exporter of oil. It's going to affect Europe. It's going to affect China. It's got, and if you're the United States and you're moving into this conflict, why wouldn't you do that? It's like putting the biggest sanction on a country that you can. So Iraqi oil won't be able to get out. Kuwaiti oil won't be able to get out. All that region will struggle apart from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia have a pipeline east-west and they'll still be able to get their oil out. So, it's going to affect everyone in that region. It's going to affect Saudi Arabia, but not as much because they've obviously got the pipeline. So, guys, that's what I think the target is they're going to strike. I think they have to do it pretty soon. I think they have to do it before the US election, in my opinion. These things usually happen on a Friday because you can make a ton of money on the stock market. Imagine now, guys, right? And I did give this example a while ago. Imagine now, that you're going to take out the Karg Island in just off the coast of Iran. That's going to be taken out at some point. So what's that going to do? Realistically, what is that going to do, taking the Karg Island out? Well, it's going to force the Iranians to close the Strait of Hormuz. They'll close it, guys. They will close that and they will say, right, you know what? Our oil's gone. We're going to stop everybody else's oil. We're not having this anymore. So then how are the Saudi Arabians going to get their oil out? Well, they're going to use their pipeline. Guess what? And I gave this example ages ago. If you know that this is going to happen, you can invest a ton of money into companies that are working in and around that, that oil pipeline. Because if the price of oil goes up, guess what? that pipeline becomes like ridiculously lucrative. And of course, you know, the Iranians, they could strike that oil pipeline to stop that, as you know, just to spite people. But guys, you know, we need to be careful of this. And you guys watching this right now, wherever you are in the world, especially if you're in Europe, especially if you're in the United Kingdom, if you see Israeli F-35s leaving on a sortie, and then you hear on the news the Israelis have struck the Karg Island, then you'll know what the next steps are. The next steps will be for the Iranians to close the Strait of Hormuz. The oil price is going to go through the roof if this happens, guys. I don't know what oil price it will get to, but it will go absolutely insane. I don't even want to put a ceiling on that thing, guys. It will be absolutely wild. Won't really affect the Americans that much because they're a net exporter of oil. So that looks like, for me, guys, that is my opinion, my speculation on the next target that they could strike. Guys, I'm going to Mac to Grid. I'll get you guys another video later.